Okay, so here's what I'm going to play for you. I'm going to play for you a little bit of an old track that I created before I knew what to do about anything, and everything's happening at once. Why I'm playing this for you is because what I am trying to do now is remake this. And it turns out that me remaking this is completely different from this original. I have now created several songs from this track. One of them I can play for you if you'd like, but this is, well, we'll just get into it. Okay. Okay, so, oh God. Oh God. All right. So I'll play from the breakdown. Okay, so you get it. So I was pretending to make trance or something, and the beat does drop, I swear to God. But anyway, the reason I wanted you to hear that is because a lot's happening at once, and there's a lot of moving lines. I think melodically. That's the first thing that happens, is I'm thinking a bunch of melodic lines, and that's the first thing that needs to get written down. The problem is I have 20 melodic lines happening in my brain at once, and then I cannot put them all down together because electronic music lovers don't like that, and they can only handle one thing at a time, so I've been told. So, so what I did was from that song, took, let me see if I can find it. It was, oh, did I move it? I might have moved. Okay, so it is, I think, something like this. I took a bass line and got this. Okay, so I got that bass line, but I attempted to bring that into this song, and it is in the beginning, but as it turns out, you can hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool, just checking. So I attempted to integrate that into this song, and I used little bits of it right in the beginning. But then I came up with a new melodic line that conflicted with that, as one does. So here's what I have ended up with thus far. Now, I just restarted this last night because that, I don't know, that's what you do in Corona, you just do stuff. So here we go. What is my life? Okay. That's where I am right now with that.
Love it.
So, well, here's the thing. So the thing is that, well, I'd actually really like some feedback on this because I played it for the boyfriend who does production also, and he said there's not a melodic line that is memorable. And I thought, well, now wait a minute, what? How? But okay, if all of you feel that way, I need to know, because feedback is hugely important. That is how you get better. So I do realize that nothing in here has been EQ'd. The highs are very high. Some things are harsh, but nothing has been done yet, because I think that the first thing you have to do is just get everything out. You just have to have your therapy session on the DAW. And then from there, you can work backwards and refine everything, you know? So please feel free to speak freely if you'd like at this time, and then we'll resume.
I would like to say something.
Please do.
First of all, I have to say I can hear the classical. You're halting it, you know, but I can actually hear what you're who you are. And on number, like the number 57 up there where it begins on that, if you go back to around 57, start there. Go up to 72, roughly 72.
Uh-huh.
Okay. I mean, it just I go up like that.
What do you?
I lift off. I love it.
Oh,
And I
oh,
don't know if you know, if that's called a signature
drop.
to you, but it is to me.
Okay, okay, good to know. So anyway, thank you. Thank anyone else. Raise your hand or just talk.
I feel like that bass riff is the hook or the
I thought
melodic.
so too.
Like, I think it's pretty memorable. Like, I feel like it would be in my head tomorrow if I listened to this some more.
It's stuck in my head right now.
Yeah.
Honestly, so I started working on this last night and I came up with that and I thought, and it was in my head this morning and I thought, well, shit, now I have to keep going. But that's why you have to ask more than one person. Okay. So,
Honestly, I mean, it's going to stick with me too. I mean, I liked it. And I mean, just for the kind of electronic music that I'm personally drawn to, I mean, I'm drawn to a lot of stuff that doesn't necessarily have like word, melody is the main focus. So having that in the bass line the way it is actually to me works really well.
okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you, ladies. I'm not asking you this to stroke my ego. I don't need that. I need feedback because that's what you need if you want to ever grow in any way. And honestly, that can sometimes be the hardest part of doing or anything really music related, because you're being vulnerable and you're trying to express yourself. So in some ways you think, well, who are you to tell me how to express myself? But honestly, when it comes to the engineering side of this crap, you have to know how to do that, and you have to get the feedback and find out what people actually like, or else if you want it played in certain settings, otherwise you are doing yourself a disservice. But you have to ask a number of people. You can't just ask one. So
Also,
anyway,
like, what setting would you like it played in, or what's the vibe you're going for?
yeah, that's a good question. Most of the time when I write something, I don't necessarily think this is going to get played in a club. I think I have to just write what I'm hearing in my head so it'll get out.
You know what? I actually disagree with Amandine. I think you should add one thing.
Okay.
I think you should add a layer at some point in the song that sort of echoes that melody that the bass line plays to just kind of reinforce it. So like, obviously you don't want to clutter things because you know that your pattern is to just put everything at once. Yeah. But like at some point to have like a higher instrument playing that melody.
I was thinking about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking that too. You could add like a B section or something, and it could have just like another layer of pattern. Or in the same motif or not. It's up to you.
So you all want to hear it high. That's kind of what I thought, that it needed to be played in a higher instrument as well.
It should be in the bass, like Rachel said, like that's what's intriguing about it, but it would be cool to also echo it somewhere else.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, so after all of this, I thought that I would show you this, because this was started last night and this is in that vomitus mass stage. Okay. And you see nothing is really in proper alignment. I mean, the drums kind of, but oh, also I did want to ask, do you feel that the highs, I know that the EQing needs to happen, but is it annoyingly too sharp? Word, thanks. Okay, so anyway, nothing is in groups. Well, I mean, kind of. But I also thought that I would show you something else that happens after this initial inception period, so that you will have an idea of what I do after this. Would you like to see that?
Yes.
Oh. Please hold. Okay. I don't know if I did anything. We'll say yes. And now we shall wait for 20 minutes. So this one I had finished and then I unfinished. So this next one had been grouped in its, good God. in its appropriate sections. And almost everything had been bounced out to audio, which is very helpful to, yes. Okay, here we go. All right, so most everything has been bounced to audio here, okay? I don't know if you all do that, but it had been, and it was ready for the mixing and mastering stage. But then I decided that the kick was, the snare was not strong enough. It didn't cut through. I didn't really, want to get into it when it dropped. I didn't feel it. So I have gone back. I now have my drum section and then groups within the drum section. I did add one more thing of MIDI just because I will bounce that, don't worry. So that will all get separated out. So we have a huge drum section, and then I have my synths. Love some bright colors. We have the bass, and then the effects. They're loading. They're there, I promise. And then the sends at the bottom. So now, as you all know, I am not as technically minded as some of you might be. All of my stuff, I hear it, I need to put it down somehow. Okay, so you can now hear this one, and you can let me know your feelings. So this track started with this melody. So I made that melody last year while waiting on a guy to show up for a party he invited me to and never came. So, and now we're dating. So anyway, yeah. So, yeah. Yeah. So I was making this while waiting, and I thought it was Halloweenish, you know. I had made that little melody, and I thought I like creepy shit, and I like dark music. So I do a lot of sound design. Sometimes I do it first. It depends on how much patience I have. I know they say you should have a smarter workflow. You should do your sound design first, and then so you can just bing, you have everything and you can just put it down. But sometimes you don't know what sound you're going for until you're working and you need to make it in the moment by accident. So I do a lot of that too. I think it's really fun to just fuck around with sounds. I really enjoy sound design a lot, and I incorporate that into everything now. So I've done a lot of classical music remixes. Well, not a lot, but I've done a couple just because, well, the reason I did those was because when I heard the piece, I could already hear the remix in my head. And so I had to make that. It wasn't I took the piece and then, oh, let me think about this. It was already there. And that's actually how a lot of my musical training has been. And I think it frustrated some of my teachers because, they'd ask me, can you please play this dead white man's music for me? And I'd be like, well, all right, but I have a better idea. Maybe I could do this. So, like, if you're familiar with the piece, the Bach Double. So it's a concerto for 2 violins, and it's got orchestra and harpsichord, probably, whatever. And Bach is dope. It's got a lot of counterpoint and a lot of just sick ass melodies. And so the main thing, da 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 dum bum 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 da da dun 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 dun. So when I heard it in my head, even when it was being played, I heard it more like bum ba dum bum 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 ba dum bum bum dun 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 bum bum ba dun 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 dun. So I heard it more swung, and that was when I was little, and I think no one really got me. So it wasn't until I was able to make my own stuff, my own way, that this was okay. Everyone was saying, she's so rebellious. Here comes trouble. Da, 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 da. And yeah, I guess so. But when you're an adult, finally you can do whatever the fuck you want. So that's what I'm doing. So taking all of these these old classical pieces and making them more accessible to people nowadays who would maybe not ordinarily listen to that sort of stuff. So I guess you can hear some of those influences. I don't know if I necessarily hear it anymore. I don't hear the influence. I just hear what's there, It's only if I've taken a classical piece and deconstructed it that I can say, oh, I hear this. So yeah, sound design, huge thing. Drum EQ, I know you can't really give proper EQ critique via Zoom because Zoom is a hot mess, but yes, I do need to better take care of my highs with EQs. So yes, I have organized this appropriately, I believe. Yeah, that's the hardest part for me. The hardest part. The most fun is the actual production. That's the best part. Yes. I will now take some questions because I don't know what you would like me to say at this point. Feel free.
How do you know when you're done with?
Ha, 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 ha. I'll tell you. I used to not know. And that was frustrating. But now I say that it's done when I can no longer listen to it anymore. And I know that it's been properly EQ'd and it's ready for public consumption and it sounds professional. Like I've done that aspect of it. So before, like for example, this wasn't ready yet because I needed to go back and fix the snare and I needed the drums to sound a little bit punchier. So even after it had been mastered, I thought it was done and it wasn't. So I had said, okay, I'm not going to do anything else to this. And part of that mixing process, you know, is for you to commit to all your stuff that you've already done. And you're not going to go back and change anything. But in this case, I did need to do that because I wasn't really happy with it. So I think maybe it might be ready for that now. So with a certain level of technical knowledge, I think I'm able to better determine when something is done, whereas before I didn't have that information. And so what y'all laughing at?
You have a,
Moving.
you have a dirty chicken drums folder?
I want to hear it. What's in the back?
It doesn't sound of chicken. It sounds of normal drums. It's just called that.
Okay.
I think that was one of the first sample packs I ever got. That's when I first got Ableton.
Oh.
Yeah. And it was just online and that's what it was called. And so it's like, that's cute.
That's cool.
So yes. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. That's my question.
What even was the question?
How do you know when it's done?
Well, when you're just so fucking sick of it that,
Yeah.
you know, and when there's nothing else, if you add anything else, it would be verbose. And if you take away, it's empty. That is one thing actually that I have learned is muting stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Just muting all the damn time. Like, do I really need this? Maybe one less iteration of this little bit. Maybe it doesn't need to keep happening all the time. Maybe not necessarily muting the entire track, but you know, just bits and pieces of it. Doing that a lot has been very helpful. Also, I learned that from someone who prefers minimal music, and I like cerebral shit. I like stuff where everything is happening, and it's like what's in my mind already, you know. And I like minimal stuff too. I think minimal stuff is great, but I want to go on a journey, you know. Like for example, Joyride. If you listen to Joyride, his song "I'm Gone," there's so much happening in that song. You've got classical stuff, you've got beats, you've got rappers, you've got halftime, then you've got whole time, you've got all the time. You know, there's just so much that's happening, and I mean it's not for everyone, but I like that because that really makes you think. Like, how the fuck did you even fit that in there?
I like that.
Yeah. Rebecca had asked or said, I want to learn more about your instrumentation, and I kind of feel that way too. So, like,
Oh, okay.
you mentioned that sound design is a really fun part for you. Can you tell us about the sounds that you chose and the instruments you chose here?
Probably not.
No? Well, just like, you know, how you feel about them.
Okay, so I that's such a good question. How do I properly do this? All right, so I have my main melodies, right? And sometimes I will use my voice. I don't know if a lot of people know this, but in most of the songs that I've made, I have incorporated some level of my own voice into it. And I do use hella effects on, I need background stuff. So I need my main melody and then I need pads for what I'm trying to create. So I need atmosphere. So I have to have that in the background. So what am I using here? I don't even know what the hell I did use. You know, it kind of happens in a fugue state. Yeah, so this, I think this was this is what started this whole song, this right here. Hold on. That part. So that, I called it a synth trumpet. It was not a trumpet at all. I don't even remember what it was, but I created that somehow, and it reminded me of a trumpet, even though it's not at all. So that is just what I call it. So that everything was built around that sound. Initially, this song I think may have started out major, and then I don't like anything major because happiness is just, you know, what is that? So then I took it in a dark direction, as I do, and wait, hold on, please hold. I don't know what this is. Oh yes, okay, I know. Yes, okay, so I had to add that to give it some harmony. That was added after the fact. How, I know I should better be able to articulate what it is that I've done, but mostly I'm just creating weird, dark sounds and putting effects on them. And sometimes that will take a very long time because I will resample and just go down a rabbit hole of making new things.
Does that apply to the instruments themselves as much as it applies to the sort of ear candy and effects? Like, do you just process things and reprocess them until you like the sound?
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. What types of, like, do you use the audio effects in Ableton or do you tweak like the instruments? What do you tend to do?
I do tweak the instruments themselves. Sometimes I have taken audio. Sometimes it's easier for me to do this in MIDI, and so I can write out what I want, and then I will process that. And there have been times where I will just keep doing that with new things until I like what I have made, and I've created something entirely new. So did that answer the question? So it goes both ways. It's for the effects and for the instruments themselves.
Program your MIDI.
Say it again.
You program your MIDI and let it go.
When you say program, explain.
You create a script that runs your MIDI, and then it just plays exactly what you had set it up to do.
Usually I write it out like I would write classical music. If that answers.
Oh, then you wrote it out. Then you play the MIDI, right?
Well, actually, I write it in the piano roll, the grid. So I just write it out.
I see what you're saying. Okay. Yeah, that's exactly what I asked, but I didn't know how to say it.
You don't have to write a script because Ableton just plays the MIDI with whatever instrument.
Exactly.
Yeah. Which is magic.
It would be much simpler. So I will say this. It would be really easy if that feature that Ableton has where you can convert stuff, you can convert melody to MIDI, or you know, some of you know might know this feature. You can convert drums, you can whatever you've tapped to a drum kit, but it doesn't really work. So I end up I have tried that feature And it might get a couple things, but it rarely gets the whole essence of what you're actually trying to create. Like, even if you just go like this, like, come on, that's basic shit, you can do that. But Ableton will not convert that sometimes. It will put it way off. Even if I'm doing it to a metronome, it is so far gone, which makes me doubt my own abilities. But it's not me, it's them. So I think that there is a piece of software, I do believe, that exists. I know y'all have seen some commercials for this. I don't remember the name of it, but it gives you a special microphone where you can just yell into it and it'll do the same thing that Ableton's supposed to do. I'm hoping that maybe with an upgrade, Ableton will be able to do that, because that would make my life a lot easier to get down what's in my head and just put it there, you know? So right now I'm doing it rather time consumingly, because sometimes this, this is embarrassing, but you know, I have a workstation set up. I'm not in my house right now because I decided I should not be at my house because I steal my internet and that would not be reliable. So I'm somewhere else right now. So at my house, I have a workstation all set up with the monitors and blah, blah, blah. And half the time, well, I would say like 90% of the time, I sit on my couch and I'm writing this stuff. I am literally programming everything into my laptop and just doing it right there.
Do you have a MIDI keyboard?
I do. And am I using it? No.
Oh.
So should I? Yes.
Yeah, that seems actually kind of hard on somebody who is so motivated by capturing the thing in the moment to not just play it in.
Well, I guess it's partially because I did it when I was doing prototypes. You know about prototypes?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll tell you guys, for those who don't know. All right, so I took a class that Liam, who no longer teaches there, was teaching, and he was talking about, you know, your workflow in Ableton, and you can try something like prototypes, where you go into the session view, dun, da, 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 and here you create a clip of, you have your drums, you have your bass, you have your main instrument, your melody and your harmony, and you create a 1x4, so one in each section, and it's basically your chorus. Like, this is your most developed part of your song. And this is hard to do because it really forces you to be efficient, and you have like 30 to 60 minutes to do this, and then you're done. And you keep doing this like every week or something, and then you pick the one you like the most, and then you make a song from that. And that is a challenge to do, but it does cause you to think more in a performative type of way, where if you had some sort of controller that you can just do this, and then it's like an additive way of playing your piece. So that is helpful if that is what you're looking to do. I have created some stuff using that. It ended up very far from that, but when I was doing the prototypes, I did use the keyboard. That was very efficient. I guess when I figure I have all the time in the world, I will just sit there and literally draw out the notes for the exact amount of time that I want it to be. It's very time consuming, but I apparently like to do things the hard way. Anyone else?
I have a question, because you mentioned a couple times that you had like the remix, maybe the previous song in your head already. I guess I'm wondering how much for you is it already in your head and you're just getting it down in Ableton versus like you experimenting with other things in the moment and then like adding those to your song? Because it sounds like you have a lot of it in your head already. So I'm just curious how much of it.
A lot of shit up in there. So for example, I did a remix of a Prokofiev Romeo and Juliet. So I did that remix, and I swear to God, I never really heard that piece by itself when I was hearing it. I always heard the other stuff that I was going to eventually write. So I did write that, but then I also, I mean, I added some stuff because, you know, you kind of have to, but for the most part, it starts along that, that what I've already heard, but sometimes I do have to take stuff away because I often do hear too many moving lines, and you know, you can't overwhelm the people. So some people say, oh, it's your music is too cluttered, you know. That's what they used to say, and that was a hard thing to understand, because when you come from the classical world, it doesn't seem like that's what's really happening. It just seems like, well, you just don't understand. You know, you just don't get me. But really, though, when it does come to synth instruments, you do have to do stuff like that. You do have to take stuff away. And so that is often a huge part of the process. Subtractive, not synthesis, arranging, I guess you would say. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting, like the difference in approach, I guess, based from classical to electronic, and how you sort of have to change the way you compose it. It makes sense though, I guess synths take up more of the spectrum or something, so you have to, I'm not really sure why that is, but yeah.
Yeah, that it was a very hard lesson to learn, but I'm very grateful that I'm still kind of learning it. But yeah, it's very, very important not to overwhelm the listener, and that you can still use all of those melodies. You just have to put them perhaps in different pieces, or maybe in a different section, or you can only take a little bit, and you can't have it all layered. It has to each have its own turn.
Makes sense, yeah.
Yes.
So I have a question for you. So you say you have everything in your head, and I think, you know, it's really hard to find exactly what you want through software or, like, you know, sounds and things like that. So how do you reach, how do you reach the perfect sound you want? Is it like mostly you're browsing through like a library of sound, or are you creating your own instruments or tweaking them? Okay.
Both. Usually I have, if I think to myself, I need an atmosphere happening right here. I have an idea of what I want, and then I will find something either that's similar and then tweak it until it's what I'm trying to get, or I will accept mediocrity.
Well, okay.
But and just say, oh, this will do. But usually I will want to find that exact thing that I'm hearing in my head to create that. Yeah.
That's awesome. Because I'm absolutely the opposite. So I will get inspired by a sound and then start from the sound and then build around it.
Well, that works too.
Yeah.
Both have inspiration, comes from everywhere. I usually actually if I'm hearing a song, I will harmonize a part to a song, and then I have a new song, and then I have to go write that one down. So that's a fun way to do it too. So you'll just have a whole library, but you have to be able to record these ideas when you have them. Otherwise, stuff's lost.